Okay.
Welcome to LuzDelMes Anthology Virtual Conference 2020. It is an honor to present to you LuzDelMes Anthology in 2019 and 2020. The 2019 project was about writing a haiku in honor to nature, and 30 participants from around the world joined these three anthologies and shared 5 haikus that represent the love for nature, the awareness that we are making to protect our Mother Earth. The project for 2020 was to write tanka, the mother of haiku, for the 2020 three anthologies. But COVID-19 changed our lives, the project, and it turns out in a narrative of our experiences in quarantine. These three anthologies means 3 for 3 languages, and is in Greek, English, and Spanish. And I have here session 3, my Greek group friends. And they are going to present in Greek and in English their participation in the LuzDelMes anthology. First is going to be my dear friend Agatha Ronnie.
Hello, nice to find you here, all of you. Have a nice month, and I wish you all the best.
And she is not only a participant, but she is the translator from English to Greek, the editor, and after you finish your presentation, I would like you to share with us how was the translation and edition process in 3 languages. Agatha Ronnie is a teacher of English and French. She is the founder of Greek Children Read and Write, teaching creative writing at her school. Agatha serves as the global co-host for Multicultural Children's Book Day, and is when I met her 5 years ago, 6 now. She is participant of anthologies, A People Write for Patras, and a strong published House 3, trilingual anthology LuzDelMes 2019 and 2020. And now this year, her bilingual picture book under the title Amelie is Impressed were acquired by Greek publisher 24gramata.com in July 2020. A great success for our friend. She presents 3 authors at the Greek American newspaper, and here is with us to read 2 amazing pieces about her quarantine experience. First in Greek and then in English. Welcome, Agatha.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for everything, for the opportunity to participate for a second year and co-edit with you. I learned a lot, and I'm glad because new Greek writers like Zoe participated this year, writing down their experiences through the COVID. And it's nice because the tree anthology comprises so many notions from different people's experiences around the globe, and this gives to it a different dimension, I think, and that makes us more multicultural, dealing with you understand, with everything that has to do with COVID experiences and the way we exchange information. So this is very challenging for me. And I'm glad that I've met you on Twitter 5 years ago through a tweet. And it's nice because it's a nice opportunity to connect and write down our thoughts in general and be connected globally. So I don't know who is trying to, I think someone is, oh, Maria Papazel. Hi, Maria, γεια σου.
Maria, welcome.
This is Maria.
Welcome.
Okay. So, oh, we can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Continue, Agatha. Then we see how she can.
Okay. Μαρία, μας ακούς, δεν ξέρω.
Σας ακούω, εντάξει.
Α, να είσαι καλά.
Έχω και το βιβλίο.
Α, ωραία, εντάξει. Ανησυχούσα, αν το έχεις πάρει, όχι.
Όχι, εντάξει, άργησε λίγο, αλλά ήρθε, λόγω της αργίας.
Okay.
Welcome. Let's continue with Maria. Welcome. You will be reading after Nopi. Now we are ready to hear Agatha Ronnie's beautiful exposition of her narrative quarantine experience.
Okay. So I start reading my story, okay? Στην αγκαλιά της σιωπής. Πόση σιωπή κρύβει μια αγκαλιά. Αυτή η κάθε σιωπή, την ιερή στιγμή της αγκαλιάς, με φίλους, γνωστούς, μικρούς και μεγάλους σε ηλικία, κρύβει κάθε φορά μια ανίποτη χαρά. Παίρνει πάντα στο μυαλό ένα αίσθημα γλύκας και ομορφιάς εσωτερικής, σαν τη μεταξένια παλότητα των αστεριών, που ξετυλίγεται κάθε νηξιάτικο βράδυ και μας χαϊδεύει γλυκά. Όταν στις 6 Μάρτη ξεκίνησαν τα πρώτα κρούσματα στην πόλη μου την Πάτρα, τότε μόνο μιας η χαρά της αγκαλιάς ξεχάστηκε και όλοι κλειστήκαμε μέσα στα σπίτια μας, στα καινούρια μας κλουβιά, που λαμπύριζαν από την αστραφτερή καθαριότητα. Αλλά πόση μοναξιά μπορείς να αντέξεις μέσα σε ένα κλουβί? Δεν μπορούσες πια να δείχνεις πως υπάρχει χαρά. Δεν ήταν επιτρεπτό να χαίρεσαι όταν όλοι γύρω σου ήταν τυλιγμένοι με τα αντισηπτικά και τις μάσκες. Οι γείτονες δεν ήθελαν ούτε καλημέρα να σου λένε. Κατήφια και καμιά διάθεση για επαφή, καμιά παρηγοριά. Μόνο θάνατοι παντού στον κόσμο και ντρόνους να σε επαναφέρουν στην τάξη όταν γέμισαν τα παραλιακά μέτωπα. Τις περισσότερες ώρες της ημέρας γινόμουν ένας εξομολόγος και ακροατής σοβαρών εσωτερικών αναζητήσεων, αλλά και ευτράπελων, τα οποία εξιστορούσαν οι μητέρες των μαθητών μου σε κατάσταση απόλυτης αλλοφροσύνης. Κανείς δεν σκεφτόταν τον άλλο παρά μόνο τον εαυτό του και μην του μεταφέρει το μέλος της οικογένειας, τον κορονοϊό. Από κανένα στόμα δεν άκουγα τίποτε άλλο παρά το πώς ζούμε για το σήμερα μόνο και πως αν πεθάνουν οι ηλικιωμένοι δεν θα υπάρχουν λεφτά να ζήσουν οι οικογένειές τους. Ένιωθα πως η μεγαλύτερη θλίψη ήταν μεγαλύτερη από αυτήν που νόμιζα πως υπήρχε και διαρκούσε μόνο η απελπισία και ο όρατος φόβος της απειλής που σε έκλεισε μέσα. Η αγκαλιά του φόβου σε είχε καλοτυλίξει πλέον και σε διοικούσε. Ο υπολογιστής έγινε ο απέραντος ουρανός επικοινωνίας με virtual συναντήσεις στα διαφορετικά μέρη του πλανήτη. Πού είναι όμως η μουσική των χρωμάτων της αγκαλιάς και του τρανταχτού γέλιου? Κανείς δεν ξέρει αν θα σταματήσει να ζει αγκαλιά με τη μοναξιά και αν όλα θα τελειώσουν πραγματικά. Μετά από τόση ηρεμιά εσωτερική και συνεχή απομόνωση, τώρα πλέον χαιρόμαστε τη φύση και την αγκαλιά, έστω και κρυφά. So I'm just reading the English summary now, Maritza, okay?
Yes.
Hugging the silence. Do you wonder how much silence is hidden in a hug? This specific sacred moment of hugging with friends, acquaintances, young and old, enwraps an unexpressed feeling of joy. It always brings in mind a sweet feeling of internal beauty, like the silk softness of night stars that unroll every spring night and carry us softly. The coronavirus pandemic closed us in our home cells and led people to become self-centered, thinking of today and forgetting the future. No one knows if life will ever come back to normal. The fear has conquered the mind, and free hugging is a secret joy anymore. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.
We are going to the silent class.
Yes.
The microphones are going to mute this microphone so we don't have static. And let's continue with story.
Okay.
And let me introduce an amazing friend of Agatha Ronnie, great author. And we were surprised and happy that she joined this anthology. And Zoe Frago is a professional coach, AC accredited candidate degree in psychology. And you will see how care inside in the free anthology is reflecting her master's in psychology. She's working as a personal and professional development consultant with individuals as well as teams and corporate groups. Zoe has a rich experience as a speaker related to coaching and philanthropy. And I need you to tell me with that word, philanthropy, and please explain to us what does it mean. And she is an organizer of investment seminars, mainly in foreign companies. She believes in people and their enormous soul potential. And I please welcome Zoe and explain to us a little bit what is this difficult word that I couldn't pronounce.
Hello. Καλησπέρα ξανά σε όλους. Νόπη και Μαρία, χαίρομαι που σας γνωρίζω, έστω και από εδώ. Με την Αγαθή μιλάμε βέβαια που και που. Maritza, we thank you all again for the honored participation. It's very big what you're doing. Congratulations again. I'm starting with my text in Greek. Εμπειρία καραντίνας 2020. Ένα από τα περισσότερο αγαπημένα μου βιβλία ως παιδί ήταν ο Ρωμισώνας Κρούσος, του Ντάνιελ Ντεφόρ. Ταξιδιάρικο ανήσυχο πνεύμα που επιθυμεί σφόδρα να γευτεί την περιπέτεια της ζωής στο έπακρο. Η περιγραφική πένα του συγγραφέα με είχε συνεπάρει. Δεν μπόρεσε παρόλα αυτά να μου λύσει μια μεγάλη απορία, που σε κάθε σελίδα ενδυναμωνόταν. Πώς ένας τόσο έξυπνος και ικανός άνθρωπος παρέμεινε ένα τόσο μεγάλο διάστημα απομονωμένος από τον υπόλοιπο κόσμο, μην καταφέρνοντας να δραπετεύσει από το νησί της απόγνωσης, ενώ παράλληλα έκτισε το δικό του μοναδικό σύμπαν σε εκείνο το μικρό νησί. Πόσο τελικά αυτή η καραντίνα που όλοι μας βιώσαμε ήταν πρωτόγνωρη κατάσταση, μήπως ήταν ήδη ντεζαβού, τα συναισθήματα που νιώσαμε, οι σκέψεις που κάναμε, οι πράξεις που οδηγηθήκαμε. Για κάποιους η καραντίνα είναι μία μόνιμη κατάσταση. Όταν παραδείγματος χάρη είμαστε άβουλοι, μη διεκδικητικοί, κλεινόμαστε στο καβούκι μας, χωρίς να έχουμε διάθεση δημιουργικής και ποιοτικής ζωής και γενικότερα αυτοεγκλωβιζόμαστε. Εδώ δεν υπάρχει ημερομηνία άρσης, παρά μόνο το δικό μας παράλληλο σύμπαν. Η αυτογνωσία είναι το εφόδιο και το όπλο μας. Δεν επιτυχάνεται από τη μία στιγμή στην άλλη. Είναι ένα ταξίδι ομηρικό, ενός σύγχρονου Οδυσσέα, στη δική του προσωπική Οδύσσεια, με άλλα λόγια, ένα ταξίδι ζωής στο χρόνο. Ο Πλάτωνας, στην πολιτεία του, αναφέρεται στην αλληγορία του σπηλαίου. Μία ομάδα ανθρώπων ζουν σε μία σπηλιά όλη τους τη ζωή. Αλυσοδεμένοι, σε ένα τοίχο, χωρίς να μπορούν να δουν έξω, ούτε πίσω τους, όπου βρίσκεται μία φλόγα που φωτίζει τα αντικείμενα που κινούνται και ρίχνει τις σκιές τους στα τυχώματα. Αν κάποιοι λυθούν από τις αλυσίδες και βγουν από το σπήλαιο, θα τυφλωθούν από τη λάμψη του ήλιου και θα επιστρέψουν πίσω. Αν ωστόσο συνηθίσουν το φως, θα δουν καθαρά τον ήλιο που συμβολίζει το αγαθό και θα καταλάβουν ότι όσοι μέσα στο σπίτι είναι προβολές, σκιές και αλήθειες. Πόσες φορές συμβαίνει αυτό στην πραγματική ζωή, άνθρωποι που ζουν στις σκιές μακριά από το φως, που δεν έχουν καμία ποινία ή πρόθεση να βγουν στο φως, διότι ή το αγνοούν τελώς, είτε δεν θέλουν να το γνωρίσουν, και γι' αυτό θα ισοδυναμώσουν το κλίμα στον εγωισμό τους. Αυτό σπίτι, πάρε την πολιτική. Σας γιατί επιλέγει λοιπόν να μείνετε φυλακισμένοι στην φυλακή, όπως είναι φίλο, ή γνωρίζετε την αλήθεια. Η πεμπτήνα έχει αρχή με σύγκρουση. Η ψυχική, όχι, η μόνη συμφωνία για στους φίλους αντίον. Or the of his house. How to live like Robinson Crusoe, or the people in the cave, away from life and truth. Some must be the way to face and factory and journey of life and time.
Thank you. You can unmute and so you can unmute your phone.
Okay. Yes.
And you are ready, Nopi.
Yes.
Welcome, Nopi. Hold on, let me introduce these lovely ladies that participated not only in the 2019 anthology, but in the 2020, and she is the person that inspired by this front cover wrote us a beautiful poem that I'm going to read to you, because This is the purpose of this anthology. It is amazing to cross the sea that flows between mountains. Like a calm river, the waters from each side dancing and kissing the mountain edges. A big ship, like a huge leaf, travels. No breaking is born. And Nopi is the author of this inspiration, haiku, and a little message. So it combines, make a haibon. And welcome Sydney, that she's an expert on haiku and haibon, and she's going to read also her beautiful haibon. Just have it ready. You will be after Maria. And Nopi is sorry, Nopi. The pages get together with mine because you are after me and Nopi. Listing Patras, great. She got a third award for the writing composition Streets and Squares in Patras in 2018, organized by the Patrinas group dedicated to social activism. In 2019, she participated in the anthology's 8 People Write for Patras, and she also participated in the 2019-2020 LuzDelMes 3 anthology, one with haiku poems, and then with poetry and a beautiful message as time passed. And if you can read it in English and in Greek, I really appreciate, because this piece, as time passed, is lovely, it's inspiring, and it made me in tears when I read. So please welcome Nopi with your beautiful piece, Time Passed. All yours, Nopi.
Thank you. I'm reading in English, right?
Yes, because it's so beautiful, and then you can read it in Greek. But I really love the English that the narrative that you sent to us.
Agatha, can you help me, because there are some...
if Agatha can read it to us, you can unmute Agatha and you can read it to us.
Yes. As time passes, a strange new day dawned. Everything was still and frozen, yet winter was coming to an end. Everyone was waiting for spring to come. COVID-19, however, had other plans for humans. Advice, commands, laws, regulations create invisible restraints to people by keeping them within both the city walls and the shielding doors of their homes. Surprised faces, puzzled eyes, sealed lips, and have nothing to say. One word prevails: quarantine, fear, panic, denial, acceptance. Houses hermetically sealed. Behind the curtains, motionless faces sharing as the deserted streets. The TVs and radios are continuously broadcasting daily error bulletins. Everyone is watching, fully acquainted with the terror. There are some exceptions. Male retired men ready on deck to claim the coffee, and they were deprived since the neighborhood cafe closed to protect their health. They took their coffee from home, sat on the curb of the sidewalk, and lit a cigarette, analyzing the prevailing situation. They have lived through wars, occupations, tuberculosis. Will the flu scare them? Being indifferent to those around them, mostly to themselves, they wear neither mask nor gloves. Day by day, attitudes change. Day by day, they walk with their heads bowed. They stare at each other suspiciously. They remain speechless. There is almost nothing to be heard. The city in silence. The noise is silence. Squares deserted. Even the sparrows stopped their incessant tweeting. People felt no longer the same. The white car stopped in the middle of the road. The father holds his little boy up in his hands to be seen by granddad and grandma. Tears flow. They can take their grandchild in their arms. How can their eyes be full when the hug is left empty? Endless checks at banks, supermarkets, and pharmacy. Money, food, and disinfection. Panic in front of posters with the precautionary instructions. But when did we get so infected? I observe people. Some started looking for balance. They looked at their garden with sympathy. They watered the plants and they waited for the first bud to stop. Some opened a book and immersed themselves in dream trips. I want to observe people and to wish, though guaranteeing, to get on with ourselves. Because when everything returns to normal, if it does, nothing will be the same. Let's take advantage of the abundant time of confinement for significant thinking and mental recognition, arm ourselves with patience, and continue to pursue our goals and dreams. At some point, we will all break out in search of our freedom, but we won't be able to get this situation out. Self-determination will be at odds with the protection of others, and we will have to defend ourselves. How will human relationship exist without a hug? This embrace that surrounds pain, joy, love. And now the small text in Greek. Καθώς ο καιρός περνάει, παρατηρώ τους ανθρώπους. Μέρα με τη μέρα οι συμπεριφορές αλλάζουν. Μέρα με τη μέρα περπατούν πιο σκυφτοί. Κοιτάζουν καχύποπτα ο ένας τον άλλον. Παραμένουν αμίλητοι. Δεν ακούγεται σχεδόν τίποτα. Η πόλη νέκρωσε από θορύβους. Οι πλατείες ερήμωσαν. Ακόμα και τα σπουργίτια σταμάτησαν το αδιάκοπο τιτίβισμά τους, λες και αισθάνονται ότι οι άνθρωποι δεν είναι πια οι ίδιοι.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nafi. I really appreciate the lovely piece and all your poems and everything for the 2019
I want to thank you.
And 2020. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we have
giving me this chance to be with you all in Greece and in the other countries of the world. And you and Agatha that called me to participate in the first anthology, and now I'm very, very happy, really.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nafi. So now we have an artist in the room that shared with us the beginning of our free anthology with this beautiful piece of art. And I know you cannot see very well, but the hands, the praying hands, the fleeting hands of Maria, and she is now not only the artist of that exhibition in the three anthologies, but also she has a lovely poem and reflection that I want her to read it for us. And Maria Papatzelou, maybe I cannot pronounce it correctly. She is from the School of Fine Arts of Thessaloniki and visual artist, oceanographer, the curator of international art projects, radio producer, and art teacher in secondary education. She lives and works in Thessalonica and participating in many group exhibitions in Greece, India, London, Kobe, and recently Kyoto, Japan. And I want you also to tell us a little bit about it. And has presented 6 solo exhibitions. She writes haiku poetry, and the first book in a collection of the Naked Sky was published in Japan with translation and comments by Professor Masashi Nakamura. She writes haiku and cultural articles in the literature site monotheaterart.gr. Everything will be in the LuzDelMes anthology. You can visit www.luzdelmes.com and you can read a lot of information from our authors. And at the back, the name of all the authors, so you can reach them, Google them, and read more about their wonderful poetry, art, and work that they are doing. Maria, welcome. You can unmute your phone, your mic, and please read us your English and Greek version. Welcome to the conference. Please unmute your mic.
Yes. You can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I will start reading in my text in English, okay. And then I will follow in Greek. Okay.
Yes, please.
Trapped inside. I count the days. Each day now seems the same as the day before. I count the hours. Each hour has the same feeling. Pause. Someone pressed the button pause, then everything everywhere stopped. Nobody knows for how long we will have to stay inside. The city became silently still. Nobody is going nowhere. It is not allowed to go out. We have to stay home, keeping ourselves safe. It is quarantine days. Quiet cities in restless steps, a silent dance. I feel trapped inside. I had a beautiful trip planned this year for my first solo exhibition to Kyoto, and instead of going there, I have to stay home. I think I never hated something so much as this COVID-19 virus. I am painting all day just to feel vivid. Only painting helps me feeling calm inside. I have a sense I'm going to explode. I get anxiety and stressful and angry of all this endless universal situation of isolation. Against the sun, hidden in its shadow, along with me. Me as an absence for the other as an absence for me. Quarantine's isolation as an absence. A continuous pause guided by others. Fear that I will not return to what I knew as my reality. Fear that I will not find the will to get out of bed tomorrow for another isolated day. Fear of going out, fear of staying safe inside. Am I safe inside? Thin finger keeping up the light inside the crack. When I am away from what I used to do every day for a long time, will I return there again? Will I still want to return to what I left in the middle before pause? Black tired eyes, closing a teardrop inside, blue endless sea. And in Greek now,
Thank you.
Haiku.
Yes.
Okay. Ήσυχα μετρώ, σκουριασμένο κοπάδι, αιχμηρής μνήμης. Λεπτό δάκτυλο, στην άκρη κρατά το φως, κοντά στη ρογμή. Κόντρα ο ήλιος κρύβεται στη σκιά του, μαζί κι εγώ. Εγώ ως απουσία για τον άλλον, ο άλλος ως απουσία για μένα. Ο εγκλισμός ως απουσία, ένα συνεχόμενο σταματημένο pause από κάποιους άλλους. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. And Maritza, I want to thank you very much for letting me the wonderful origins of poets around the world.
Congratulations. So now I want to hear from Agatha Ronnie the experience to translate from Greek to English, and then to edit from English to Greek, and working with me. Agatha, it's your turn. You can unmute. You can unmute your mic.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I thought you would do it. This was the second year, so things were different and easier for me, judging from last year. When I translate, I try to grasp the person's, the writer's personality, and I don't want to have the same translating stigma, let's say. So I'm interested in the way the person thinks, and I try not to translate automatically, if you can use that term, but better delve in the text and try to think somehow what the writer wants to send as a message to the reader. So this is what I do with the literature all these years that I'm teaching. So I think this is the thing that we have to do. Then, as I have written after, I mean, the style of my writing too. So I think this happens with the rest of us. When we read our writings after time and months, we see maybe there's not a connection between us or we have experienced all this situation. We both write it down. We have different feelings, like something coming out. So now, after all these months, when I have rechecked and I've gone back many times, believe me, regarding the translation, I found that I wouldn't change many things. And I don't know, it's not that I'm a perfectionist, it's that I have this type of judgment for myself. I'm very strict and I'm very hard on myself. I don't know why. So, but in general, it was nice having everyone's experience. And I felt like being part of that experience because I had everyone's inner emotions written in English. Now, with the English version, I can tell for some text, well, I didn't have to do the whole text like last year, so it was different. And some of the participants already sent the English version. So that was easier for me. And okay, just see some commas or maybe choose another word. That was somehow in unison with what the writer wanted to present. And then I am lucky because I know some of the participants and we have discussed hours and hours, we have met. I think I know their inner feelings and the way they think. So that was easier for me to understand what the person was talking about and to have a special rhythm and, regarding my writing. I mean, the pacing. Have the pacing that would expose the writer's personality. So it was different. Now about the editing, I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay, but we have edited it so many times with Maritza, countless of times, for commas, for everything. I know there's always something in all books, something is missing, something should be done differently. You always need more eyes on a book. There are different details that are escaping from us. I hope that speaking in general terms, that we're okay. So I think we're okay. I don't know. But this is my first effort as a co-editor, and thank you for this because it's something very big for me. And I hope it's okay for anyone who reads, and I would like to have someone's comments on that to improve myself and be careful next time. You know, it's not easy to edit text.
Yes,
I know that.
Yes, I think
it's a great responsibility. It's a great responsibility because you present something to the public, to the whole world, and you expose yourself. So who did the edit? Who didn't pay attention to this, to that word, to grammatical errors or whatever mistakes I made? So, okay, but we learn, and you gave me the chance, and Oh, Mejia, I mean, I thank you for all these years. This is a chance for everyone. And I think when the Greek writers called me after they called me when we had the first trianthology, those who didn't want to participate because they thought, okay, what is trianthology? Why participate? And things like that. Oh, hello. When you are in the process and you have your participation in the anthology, then I think making all these friendships and see what is the anthology about. It's not a simple anthology. I don't know, maybe I'm connected to Maritza and I feel like that. Maybe I know some people and I have this connection with the people and I feel like it's not a simple anthology, it's something more, but this is my feeling, you know. So thank you once more.
Okay. Thank you, Agatha. Thank you. And welcome, Professor McCarty. So it is an honor for us to have Professor McCarty all the way from Japan. And I know time is a little late there. And I really appreciate the effort, Professor. And we are so excited to have you with us. And I know you have a wonderful presentation for us. We are going to start in 5 minutes and going to make you also able for you to go, I hope, your presentation with the shared slideshow. Before we move to the presentation, let me close a little bit with the process that we went through, the difference that we did with the two anthologies. As Agatha mentioned, in the first one, she had to translate everything from Greek to English, and I had to translate everything from Spanish to English. It was really hard because then, as Agatha mentioned, sometimes you can maybe change something that the author was thinking, especially because poetry is extremely difficult to translate. So, but here with the 2020, since this is only narrative, it was easy for us to do the translation, and some of you already sent the English version, so it was just editing. But I want to share a little bit of the editing process that we did because we make it fun. We use the technology. We use the messenger. We use the animation. We really have fun with what we have because we were working really hard to put everything together. But at the same time, we were trying to have fun, to release a little bit the stress of the time that we were facing because we were in quarantine. And I think it was a beautiful opportunity to share our knowledge. I know probably we made mistakes, I hope not, but we tried our best and we took very seriously all your work. Every single piece was written like 3, 4, 5 times and trying our best to do a perfect translation, edition, and the most important thing was to grasp your inspiration, not changing the details of your story. And I think we did it because when I read the book, when it was published, I felt that the essence was there of each of you in particular. For those of you that were not able to join, I want to go very quickly with the names of all our participants. Agatha Ronnie, Antonia Maria Chicolobato, Becky Villarreal, Equeria Gafuri, Iana Meloni, Jan Williams, Jorge Luis Seque, Kip Maria Perry, Maria Antipapadi, Maria Antipioni, Maritza Mejia, Masashi Nakamura, Moki Gregoski, Adele Mendy, Olga Munoz, Steve McCarty, Susan Johnson, Tina Solis, Pedro Rodriguez Mora, Valerie Allen, John Mejia, Joanna Paz, and Zoe Dragon. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because this is a piece, an historical piece, of how we experienced the quarantine in 2020. So we are ready now to learn a little bit more about what is a myth, a legend, because in the 2019, we have several myths, legends, stories, traditions, and here we only have narratives that express in poetry, haiku and haiku, our emotions. So I want to introduce to you our dear friend, Professor Steve McCarty. He's in and out. Let's see. I know the connections from Greece, America, Asia, but while he gets connected, let me read a little bit of Professor McCarty. He was born in Boston and became a full professor in Japan. He currently lectures for Osaka Jogakuin University and the Japanese Government International Agency, JICA. Since 1998, he is the president of the World Association for Online Education. He is a highly cited author on e-learning, bilingualism, language teaching, Japan, Asia, and academic life. And we just going to wait for him to join. But also, I have to mention another important person in our connection between Greek friends, Greece, Japan, and is Masashi Nakamura. I read at the end, I will read a little piece of the prologue. We are ready for Professor Steve McCarty. I just read your bio, Professor McCarty. Welcome. All yours, 20 minutes, and then we'll ask you questions about the presentation. Welcome, Professor McCarty. You can start. Do you want to start now? You can unmute.
Yes, let me try that first, the screen sharing. This is not the presentation, but I hope that in 10 minutes I can start the PowerPoint presentation, and that maybe some people will arrive at that time, the scheduled time. So, so you might like this one. So this is the bilingual haiku scroll that I prepared a long time ago, and just for your entertainment. So I have the bilingual haiku for all the 4 seasons that have published, for all the 4 seasons. And so I added like the seasonal photos to each of the seasonal haiku. So this one is starting with spring. And so here's a picture of like the Kiyomizu-dera, the World Heritage Temple in Kyoto, a picture in spring. And then I have my spring haiku down here. A different spring than villagers see. So this is in a UNESCO and a World Culture Report on the cultural diversity. So and then another picture, I think this is to Toji, the temple in Kyoto that was the imperial the emperor then designated as the center for Kukai, the Japan's greatest saint, that I will discuss more later about him in relation to the pilgrimage to Shikoku and inspired that pilgrimage. So by the way, this kind of so you see, I saw so many today that my wife wanted to take a long walk in Kyoto along the river Kamogawa, and these and also the blue herons figure in haiku also, because they look so, this still looks so pensive. And then so this is getting a little later, still the in the spring. Yeah? And so this this haiku was in a national newspaper with a circulation of 8 million, and was kind of praised by a Japanese haiku expert, and so it kind of shows that non-Japanese people can write haiku poetry. And then another a little bit more lighthearted haiku that before the rainy season, tears of the stone Buddhas can wait. And here are the stone Buddhas at the Daikakuji at the temple where I often go. And then this summer, a little bit, so some of the haiku get a little bit too anthropomorphic, and they veer into what is called senryu. That is a kind of like a haiku without the heavy meanings. And similarly, so and then another summer kind of scene that I love to watch lotuses in the summer. So they come out in the morning and then they close up, so you have to get out early. And I saw those in Thailand also when I went there. And then this is that yesterday that I mentioned about this haiku poem, that I was just really living this. And so what I was seeing, was reflected what I was experiencing. So this is what I actually saw, but it has a kind of natural symbolism. So and then this is, Tanabata is a kind of a festival of stars, and it's on like a 7/7, like the 7th day of the 7th month. That's called Tanabata in Japan. And so I wrote really the most simple, haiku about that. And then again, one more summer haiku. It's a little bit like a Western poem, so a distant foghorn blows, a midsummer night's call, a train whistle echoes. And then getting into the fall. So this is the scene that I often enjoy in Arashiyama in Kyoto. And this is the bamboo on the left and other trees with the changing colors on the right. And then in the fall, so more fall poems. And so, the deer in Nara will bow for snacks. They've been living, together with humans for many generations. So I wrote this haiku about that. And this is just one of the many the scenes of Kyoto in the fall. And this is coming up in about 2 or 3 weeks, the changing leaves like this. So I try to get out as often as I can. And this is all this Arashiyama, and where you walk up a little hill, and most the tourists miss the the good spots like this because it's that Japan and Kyoto, it doesn't easily give up its secrets, and so you can go to a famous tourist place and miss out on the best things because it's not obvious. And so I always look for trails behind temples and things like that. But you can walk along the river on the one side, and you can also walk up to the top of this big hill and get this beautiful view of the Katsura River that runs into Kyoto. And then just in winter, the haiku also. So one last poem. So the snowy moat ducks as if baby swans. And then here's a picture. So nowadays it doesn't snow much except up in northern countries. So when it did snow one day a year or two ago, then I rushed to Kiyomizu-dera, and I rushed through the slippery snow and ice, to get this rare kind of a photo of the World Heritage Site of Kiyomizu-dera. So that's today's movie or entertainment for your enjoyment. Now let me. So what I want to do is, in a few minutes to open up the PowerPoint presentation. So that should be easily done.
Thank you for the beautiful exposition of nature in our lovely Japan that we all love so much. And let me just read the preface for LuzDelMes anthology before you continue with your exposition. Our connector, the person that made possible the connection between Greece, Japan, and America, is our Masashi Nakamura, dear friend Masashi Nakamura-san. He started the preface. Unpredictable situation always comes to our lives at a certain global incident of rare experience. The pandemic crisis has speed up to a range that exceeded the initial expectations of news and reports. Even in July 2020, people in the world shared the quarantine experiences. COVID-19 presents us to make an important decision. What should we prioritize? What should we stop? What should we do? What risk has to be taken? We are in November, closing to the end of the year, and 6 months after February, we are still thinking, what should we prioritize? What should we stop? And what should we do? What risks have to be taken? Some of the countries in Europe and other places will go to quarantine again. So this is something that we think about. The COVID-19 raised these questions to us. And we are here. We are together. We are not alone. I want you to feel that you are not alone. Please feel that LuzDelMes, my platform, my humble platform, is not perfect. I have to do so many things. But anytime that you want to share, anytime that you want to talk, anytime that you want to spread, to share a poem or something, LuzDelMes platform is open for you to spread your concerns and be together. Because we are not alone. When I listen to news from diverse places of the world, the discrepancies were amazing. I don't know if we know what are we doing. COVID-19 came for a reason. The reality we don't know. I'm not aware of eating healthy, doing exercise, yoga, walking around the house, and nurturing my mind, spirit with good thoughts and praise. I live in one day at a time. This year is not a year to plan big plans for the future, because the future is not in our hands right now. Well, really, it's never in our hands. But we are here, we are together. We couldn't go and visit our friends in Greece and our friends in Japan. But look, we are here in this virtual platform, and thank Zoom platform for this opportunity to give us to be with us. So, Professor Steve McCarty, you are ready to start your presentation because we want to explore and learn more about myths, legends, and iconography and poetry. And you are an expert on those topics. So you have 20 minutes for your presentation, and then please write your questions in the chat or either read it to him when we finish the presentation. Welcome, Professor Steve McCarty. All yours. You can unmute your phone. We cannot hear you, Professor. Unmute your mic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We're ready for you. We're ready for you.
Okay, here we go again. Okay, East-West symbolic language of dreams, myths, legends, iconography, and poetry. So I think like the main point is about symbolic language. So we're going to try to like read the world, you know, in terms of symbolism, and make some East-West comparisons. And I may depend on, you know, or the Greek or other, you know, participants to give like the comparative, you know, aspect of it. But actually, in the university, I did study some Greek philosophy, and so I'm very interested in their, you know, culture, and so I can say a few words about that. But all of these things have in common that it's that's kind of a language of images of the symbolism. So maybe I won't go into, there can be other dimensions like music or something, but that would be even farther out of my areas of expertise. So that I'm trying to get the slide is not going to the next. Usually, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's quite. Oh, let's try to get to move the next slide for some reason. Maybe I can do it this way then.
Yeah,
Small screen, but you can do it this way. Okay, so the ancient language of images is so thin. So this presentation will be a lot about intuition. So it's informal and one point is that there aren't like certain words that you can arrive at, you know, to understand this. You know, so that so I may just be suggestive in certain areas, but that we all have to, you know, figure this out for ourselves, you know, beyond words. Okay, so another thing that goes back to the Upanishads and Vedanta, but the most deeply personal is the most highly universal. So inner transformation can presage changes in the world. And so I'll be talking about this in connection with dreams. And the big dreams can foreshadow changes in our life stories. So dreams are connected to our life stories. And Carl Jung like made a distinction between like the little dreams that are just about, you know, our personal life, and big dreams, which have like a greater import, and also that may even be connected to the zeitgeist, the spirit of the age. So that another thing that I thought in my youth was that that the changes in the world are really begin within ourselves. So a change in one person, you know, may be the impetus for changing the spirit of the age. And it may be, you know, a process that, you know, just arises naturally, you know, from dreams and then a realization. but anyway, so big dreams can, and I'll give an example of how actually the dreams, did foreshadow, the changes in my life story. And furthermore, the people have always lived myths and taken lessons from legends. And so I will discuss how the ancient people viewed the world, like people who first arrived in Japan, and then what they were actually seeing, that I could give educated guesses about what people actually were experiencing. And so I'll go into that in the presentation. And the lore and iconography of the pilgrimage of Shikoku provide vivid examples of myths and then legends. And I often say that some of the legends of Shikoku are almost like the Greek the great Greek stories and legends. So I'll have to discuss that further. But and you can hear an example of a really incredible story that I tell. And then I'll go into to poetry, which relies on the metaphors. There are other issues like the cadence and the rhyme and other things issues, but I'm going to focus on mostly the way of thinking behind the poetry. So there are different the poetry of the East and West actually come from a very different place, a different way of thinking, which I will try to explain in this presentation. And but different from the Western kind of metaphysical or the abstract kind of way of thinking, that the haiku communicate through nature symbolism. And so you let the nature do the heavy lifting in the haiku, and the changes in nature then reflect changes in ourselves. But we put the focus on on the nature. And so so through reading symbolic language, then let us read the world in a deeper way. Okay, so let's dive into dreams here, and of course I can't say very much about this. I'll only be suggestive of these things. So first I'll take up like images, emotions, and intuitions. Another area that goes along with this is the instinct, or instincts. So basically the dream language is it's a language of images, and we we find that we don't know how, like this, let's say, just thinking in terms of the brain. So we don't know how this works, but it seems like that we generate generate images, and then there's a certain emotional energy attached to images. And so this is why you see something that reminds you of something, and then that's the same emotion from an earlier time then is relived again, just as vividly as before. And so there's a certain an emotional an energy attached to a certain the image. And the way this works in instinct is, for example, in the animal kingdom, like I say, the leaf cutting ant, sees the image of the leaf and then triggers the instinct to cut, so that's that's how things work. So even for humans, at a deep level, that instincts are operative in that kind of way. And so I think we need our kind of intuition to read this kind of the language of dreams, beyond science, beyond what science can prove. And your own dreams, should be, the most understandable to you, but an expert and may be able to tell you about that aspects of your dreams that go beyond you. You know, so some of our dreams, like I said, that may be big dreams and have a greater significance, and even than our, you know, our personal life. And so those dreams then may be available for, you know, an expert to interpret. And the big dreams then may be the ones, you know, most important to our lives anyway. And so the dreams are connected to our life stories. You know, and so we have a sort of like a image, you know, and a kind of a life story, like, and we get kind of stuck into a pattern also, like where, you know, we play like kind of a role, and people put us into roles also. And but we have our, so our identity, you know, consists of two things, you know, and consists of what you identify with on the one hand, and on the other hand, our identity is the role that we play in life. Especially in Japan, especially like certain people I know, you know, that they have been placed into kind of like a role of like the oldest daughter, kind of a role, and then they're living that role and trying to break out of it. Sometimes not sure what is wrong about it, but someone from the outside, you know, can see that, and, you know, it help a person. But often, you know, people cling to their self-image or their mental complexes. So actually they think, well, this is me, you know, but actually it's a set of complexes, you know, that may have been imposed on you by, you know, the problems that your parents had or something like that. And so of course this is a huge you know, subject. But let me give one example actually of a dream that relates to this. So once, like long ago, so when I was you know, single, I guess, living in the U.S., and as a young man, and my life was going nowhere, you know, because you know, despite, you know, my being able to go to, you know, Northeastern University, actually I really had a, you know, terrible background of abuse and neglect, and it never was able to study. I just had to defend myself from, you know, of gangs attacking me and things like this. So that and even then I moved to you know, Hawaii, and, you know, during a time when there are no jobs or anything like this, and so I was really struggled with many, you know, part-time jobs to get through graduate school. So I'm so at some point, you know, my life seemed to be going nowhere. So I had this dream that I climbed up like a mountain. When I reached the top of the mountain, there were all these like the gleaming, like a yellow, orange, red, and gold, you know, things. And then a voice said, "But the fruits must belong to someone else." And so that, and then I woke up in awe, and so that, and on the surface, then there's nothing that, why should that be such a moving, you know, the dream? But apparently it seems to be connected to my life story. So we're, you know, like getting the short end of the stick, you know, and then you start to feel that it's, you know, that other people are, you know, they getting the, you know, that what you had, or, you know, you may not even know that you deserve, because you know, if you're mired in poverty or something like that. But anyway, then when I got married to this, you know, mysterious you know, Japanese woman, and she was, you know, on one level, she was completely like a common sense Japanese who did not use English, who just relies on my Japanese speaking. But on another level, kind of an extraordinary person, and that people were, you know, like impressed at our the wedding ceremony in Hawaii, where there was like a beautiful sunset and rainbows during our wedding ceremony on the beach in Hawaii. But my wife spoke although in Japanese, and she spoke very self-confidently, like at their wedding ceremony, and it was translated into English, that we had a bilingual, you know, ceremony. So, but so trying to figure, you know, her out over the years. So I mentioned about someone being, you know, placed into like a role of like of the elder sister, and not being able to really be, you know, be yourself, or be
Please tell me, please help me.
Self-realized.
इसका zoom पे है ना?
Okay, so it turned out that she had a similar life story, and where she also like got the short end of the stick, in her life, and their whole family were relying on her and depending on her. She's the brain of her whole family, and yet all the other people were getting the rewards. Like the younger siblings would get all the gifts and cars and trips abroad. And my wife was just in the role of helping without any reward, just sacrificing herself. So I tried to always to let my wife lead us and let her be like at least equal partner, and to try to realize herself. And it's very difficult to get out of those roles that you've been placed in. But I think that she's gradually becoming happier, as she's through her skills, that we've become very successful, through her life skills and so forth. And so that it was uncanny that that we came together, not knowing that we had like a similar life story. And so and then this big dream then many years before, that may have foreshadowed even the future life or trajectory. And one thing that the dream that did leave me with, my interpretation was, that why not the best for me, so it's not settling for second best. And that's why I searched far and wide to find the right person to marry. And so I've just been married this once for over 30 years to this one person, and she was the best the woman that I could find. Okay, so then so one thing about I have not exactly published, but in the Humanities Commons, then I posted the old like a dream again, and when I was very young. So in this document, so if you find this slideshow, then you can click on all the links, to follow up on all of these like articles, and includes like it's a step-by-step procedure of like how to remember and record and interpret your dreams. Okay, so I would just refer people to that. Move on to the next topic. So I have to be brief about this first podcast that goes into great detail, about how prehistoric people viewed their life in Japan, but also I'll try to say some of the main in Japan, and sudden tsunamis or things like this, and then they kind of remember in their cultural memory and their oral traditions, and so it makes people feel like first like that the Japanese like archipelago is alive, then so maybe it's some kind of great animal or something that you're riding, and so that's how the kind of impression that people got, and you also feel like that you are Buffett by forces beyond your control. So maybe supernatural, forces, and something. So are the gods angry at us? Do we need to do some, the religious ritual, to propitiate the gods, or something that is? So I think that all ancient cultures, have, kind of a question, but to make some educated guesses about the people in ancient times, and so how they viewed Japan. And so they developed cultures, and it's similar to the Greek myths. There's a little like incestuousness. Like you start out with one thing, but then it has to become a diversity, somehow, and then maybe later reconnect. So Kojiki, like ancient recipes and the gods of Japan. But then the Japanese and the Greek gods are also capricious, so again, like at the, our human power that are affecting us. So move on to discussing like a shikoku, so an example of myths and legends. Okay, so Shikoku is an outer island of Japan, a little bit less urbanized than the main island of Honshu, and so Japan's greatest saint was born there, and they did have quite a high arrived in Japan in the 6th century. So the pilgrimage of Shikoku recapitulates like a kukai's life, of asceticism and finding enlightenment in the kind of mountain asceticism. And so actually to look at the references, so there's a whole like a Shikoku bilingual guidebook, a Japanese-English guidebook that people can read and use like before you visit Japan, if you visit Shikoku. And then this, the legend of the woman diver is a legend based in incredible story that that deserves its own whole time period. But it's a really the woman diver is something that would be very meaningful to women in particular. It shows like a woman is really the heart of a woman. Incredible story, just unbelief. Just that's why I thought it rivals some of the great, the Greek. And so Shikoku is the pilgrimage island of Japan. So so one example of a legend. The legend, and so legend itself, and then interpret that legend. But probably most people would just take the story on faith. Anyway, the story of a rich man in the area of Matsuyama, coincidentally the haiku town, and he had 7 sons. And so then one time, like a man just begging for food, and he just said, just go away and stuff. And so, and then the priest came back again, another and stuff. And then finally, then his 7 sons started to die off, like one after another. You know, we're gone. And so he started to reflect that maybe that, you know, that the mendicant priest, you know, was the great Saint Koboga going around the pilgrimage of Shikoku, and this is like 1,000 miles or so, but you know, round and round, you know, looking for the great saint, and then finally, when he was near death, then he started his last chance was to go back in oppositely. Just when he was about to die, then the great saint, you know, appeared before him, and he said, "Well, I have only one wish, to be of the region, and so I can just help people." And then a year later, in Matsuyama, a baby was born, and then the hand would not open. So actually, this is the story behind the stone hand. So all the priests, and they called priests in because the hand of the baby would not open. And so but finally, so the Buddhist priest came and opened, and inside the baby's hand was a stone, and on that stone was written, "I am Emon." Can you make like about? So I just gave very briefly the story of the legend, but what can you make of a story like that? And so on one level, it claims to have the stone of Emon, saying that I am Emon Saburo, you know, at the Ishiteji, the stone hand temple in Matsuyama. But on another level, then you have to look like at the historical, or even this sociological, you know, context. And the Kukai was such a great saint that he started like this Shingon religion and had all these centers, but no one was able to really live strict Buddhist asceticism. So instead, like they deified him. They made him kind of like a god, you know, and they're believing that he's, you know, visit people, you know, or guide them, or walk along with them, like represented by the staff that people, you know, that carry on. So his followers later, then they developed so many, like there were many great and true things that he did, like building dams and all different things. On that, and then that his kind of worshippers then developed all these you know, miracle stories, you know, and the water came out and things, that kind of a miracle story about him. So apparently and then the one, his followers on his Mount Koya, you know, monastery would go down then and through society, you know, and spreading all these stories about how or like this, you know, that and so you can think of the significance of the story. Then what about you know, the 7 sons? That doesn't add up, you know. So but why was this? Because the Emon Saburo turned away the mendicant priest, those kind of the offerings when they went around to preaching. And so at a completely different level, that reincarnation story, that you'd better give the alms or food to the mendicant priests that are coming through town. So isn't that interpretation then to far beyond the surface of the miracle story? Okay, so let me go on. Let's see. So also in Shikoku, so there's the mountain range, and actually it's right near born in one part, actually below part of this mountain range. And so later in Buddhism, in the Heian period, they came to call it the Elephant's Head Mountain Range. And so by the late Heian period, a kind of a rush hour intersection of the gods, that all sorts of major Asian and religions and folk mountain range, and were all identified with each other. Like a Shinto god, it would be identified with the Buddhist divinity or something, language to identify two different divinities like that, so that Japanese founding god Kuninushi no Mikoto, who comes from the Buddhist Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. They identified these two because that it has just a syncretism. And so I wrote a whole an encyclopedia entry about this, about Buddhist syncretism in Japan. But actually it brings together also Hinduism, Chinese, and folk religions. And ultimately they viewed that mountain range as a mandala that practitioners could enter and actually physically traverse the mountain range as a mandala. So this is incredibly elaborate the religious phenomenon of such rich complexity. Okay, so then in many centuries later, then that Hiroshige, the great a wood block print artist, he made a wood block print of the Elephant's Head Mountain, and then his wood block print, then looks really like an elephant, very much like an elephant, or almost like kind of an animated kind of element, a very lifelike sort of but actually that was similar to how ancient people actually viewed the mountain. So when you look at the real the Elephant's Head Mountain, it's called Kompira-san, in Shikoku. It looks just kind of a little bit like an elephant's head, just a little bit, with a head and trunk. So not very much. You have to. If you didn't hear about it, you probably wouldn't even notice that it looks like that. But then, but the Hiroshige was able to get at the way people viewed the mountain in their minds. So these are the kind of the clues that I followed up, to be able to see things through the eyes of ancient people. And then what it shows is what is often called the animism or pantheism of not only ancient Japanese, but it seems to be most ancient people in the world. And so the animism, the idea that that all trees and you know, other things, even like a strange kind of a rock can have a spirit, and often like the Shinto shrine maybe has nothing in it except maybe outside and maybe like a tree or a strange shaped rock. So that serves as like the conduit to the unseen world. And so Shintoism is all about that, like the unseen world, and that they actually connected through nature. And so pantheism is the idea that there can be many, that all things or many things then could be gods in some ways. And so in the Japanese worldview, they didn't even make much of a distinction, you know, between the ancestors and the Shinto gods. Okay, so and then so I can't say too much about like iconography. There are things like the Gupta style of Buddhas. So when you see all the Buddhas that have all like the kind of the lumps all over their heads, and in most Asian countries, then you see that the similar kind of iconography. So that just like you have like the imago Dei, like the image of Jesus that that people imagine. So they are also kind of the image of the Buddha, and was settled on that sort of a Gupta style. And so we don't know, that it probably has very little connection to what, the actual historical, the Buddha looked like. But that is how, iconography works. And it's another sort of symbolic language that we need to, to read with our intuition. And so then really when I was in the graduate school, I gave a presentation at a national, like a Jungian psychology conference in the US. And I got into the kind of the symbolism of the Lotus Sutra. And then that also has kind of elephant the symbolism. So I'll have to, to move on. And so discussing poetry, I think that before the presentation started, I discussed haiku, but right now I would like to more to focus on like the way of thinking behind of poetry. And so it gets into like the difference between like in Indo-Western and East Asian thought. And so I say that Indo-Western because I find that the Indians are at least as abstract in their thinking as the Westerners. Whereas when you move over to like to East Asia, their way of thinking gets more and more like concretistic. So the opposite of abstract thinking is the concretistic or concrete thinking. Thinking in terms of actual things or objects or or nature. And so as I mentioned in the beginning that haiku works in terms of nature symbolism. And so if you compare that to like the Western like the metaphysical poetry, or the even the more usual kind of a poetry, like it depends a lot like on words and ideas and things like this. But the Japanese the haiku just works through the nature symbolism, so it's symbolic, it represents something more than than just the trees and natural phenomena. Yeah, but at the same time, like it's also like a pointing to something at a deeper level, if the haiku works well. And so like like the abstraction or the metaphysical, it points to a deeper dimension. So and so for people who are interested in haiku poetry, that I would especially recommend you read this number 8, Internationalizing the Essence of haiku poetry. So that article really has all that I have to say about haiku, and by reading that, then you could probably, judge a haiku contest in elementary, secondary school. And then what I showed you before, the bilingual haiku scroll of my published haiku in Japanese and English. Also, what I did here with the Japanese, I thought that what I wrote was kind of difficult, and so, so how can I explain it? Well, I wrote in Japanese, a similar meaning in Japanese. So that could help the bilingual people or Japanese people to understand what I'm saying here. Okay, well, so I guess, well, I've gone a little, over time already, about, over 50 minutes, starting before the official time. So I'd like to say, thank you, and see if you have anything to like inquire or share or, compare and your culture or something about any of these topics, dreams, myths, legends, iconography, or poetry. And then the last thing is that you can, rather than click on each individual, the link in this slideshow that's online, a ResearchGate or SlideShare, then you could go to my Humanities Commons site that's called Japan, and access, all of these and more, or the profile at Humanities Commons. So I'm not sure how you can find this, but I can, perhaps, post a few links at Maritza's, Facebook timeline.
Yes, Professor McCarty already placed in my in today's timeline. We already have the link of this presentation. But now, well, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you. Class for Professor. Thank you so much. And now I have Professor McCarty, a friend of yours, Julia Kiefer, and Professor Anita Shukla is also with us. Welcome. Ms. Julia Kiefer wants to share something about the universal bedrock. So, Ms. Julia, if you have 3 minutes, please share with us. You can introduce. She is from Manhattan, New York, and she would like to share with us the universal bedrock. Unmute your phone, you can unmute your mic. Ms. Julia. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Maritza. Can you hear me?
Yes, we all hear you.
Well, thank you very much. And Steve, it's so great to see you. That was a fantastic lecture. It's wonderful to see you after these 22 years during a global pandemic where we really need to discuss the bedrock of the collective unconscious, since there's so much division in the world now with this terrible pandemic, terrorism, and so forth. For years, I've been teaching screenwriting and global literature at New York University here in Manhattan. And I wanted to just briefly mention Joseph Campbell's Monomyth, not as a formula or a rigid scaffold, but rather just as the first step towards better understanding the collective unconscious that is the bedrock of all cultures. So we want to celebrate difference. We want to go to different restaurants. We want to read different kinds of books. But we also want to have a way of communicating our humanity across cultures. And I think that's what's important about this paradigm. Right now I'm critiquing a new screenwriting book for Routledge, and I'm also working on some writing of my own. And what's interesting, Steve, is your journey up the mountain into a special world. And I think the ordinary world, special world paradigm of space is interesting. And it's particularly interesting now because what's happened to our space? Here we are Zooming, locked down into these tiny rooms. And so the space in part is going inside. Both Young and Joseph Campbell, Chris Vogler in The Writer's Journey, a number of these people discussed also the inward journey of the schizophrenic who sinks and the shaman who swims in the inward journey. Now, all of you look like you're swimming and you're not sinking. I'm glad to see in this Zoom. So, but that's another paradigm that we can discuss, the ordinary world, special world, an elixir for appeal society. And I just wanted to bring up, I have 30 seconds, that this is a time where we need healing. And I just wanted to introduce the concept of myth as healing for our bedrock. And thank you very much. I won't take any more time.
Thank you so much. So welcome. Please give us an insight of myth. Please find it.
Namaste.
Namaste.
I'm sorry, I joined little late. I'm sorry, Professor. But as we discussed on Messenger, so I just wanted to share a story from Indian folk literature about this. This is a myth from Rama's story, actually, that you told me on Messenger about Kumbhira, but this is the story about Makaradvasa that is in Ramayana. And that is found in Asian Ramayana also, which is in some different way, a little bit different way. That is about half fish and half monkey. The Makaradvasa is a character character in Rama's story in Ramayana, and he is son of Hanuman. But actually Hanuman is Brahmachari in Hindu mythology. But this story is found in Valmiki Ramayana and Ramcharitmanas of Tulsi, and even my folk literature. So so there are such symbolic stories in mythology which could be compared in different cultures. That's what I wanted to share. There are more such stories. I have written few papers also, and that I may share sometimes, after sometimes, if.
Oh, you want me, Maritza? Hello, Professor Kiefer and Ms. Sukletu and Professor McCarthy again. How are you? Oh, you want me to read from our 2019 and talk about the different? Sure. I'm an English teacher. I'm since my teen years attracted to mythology, philosophy, and different myths and traditional customs that we have in different parts in Greece. And I'm always attracted to more reading and finding out what is the meaning, because I have noticed out that when you talk with the people of each area, you get different meaning of the story than you see in books or in on media, because oral history goes hand by hand, I think, with people's feelings, and then different generations, they get the meaning across in probably different ways. So the last decades, I have also noticed that there are books that refer to these different meanings from judging them from a philosophical level, or just the areas storytelling. So then the people's experiences transform these myths nowadays. Sorry, maybe Maritza, you want me to talk about the myths in a different way, but this is what comes out naturally to me now. So I also think that we have all that universal myths embodied in our culture, in our DNA as Greeks from the ancient time, and whoever reads history and analyzes all the aspects along with the universal myths of Campbell's or any other psychologists that have explored and have they have done a very thorough research on the myths and their importance. We see that universal connection in different cultures. So maybe I can tell that the Greek myths is the base, but then that this base is enriched by all the other myths, in the Mexican ones, the European myths. There are similar pieces from the Irish mythology, from the Norway, and it's part as you go on. Each time as you go on, you see different parts of the puzzle to come together, and I personally do like that. I am crazy about myths and writing in general and reading, and I find it so much fascinating. And I was really, how I'm gonna say it, somehow surprised when I read with Harry Potter's book, which I haven't read, but I just piece of it, that the writer used different parts of mythological creatures from all the most famous and renowned mythological stories. I mean, parts of the myths around the globe, from Denmark, Germany. So I found that really interesting years back when the books were out and I started more to check. Something else that I would like to note is that the signs, every myth has a sign, has its own signature, I think. So there are different signs. And I'm not talking about the druids, of course. I'm talking about the different signs. There are different signs and there are different symbolisms that go along with these signs. I mean, this is the way I have it on my mind. So this is, I don't know how it goes on and how I should transfer it to you in a different way. But this is how I feel. And
wonderful. We are
I don't
about
want to tell more because I want to stop. Sorry.
No, not a problem. We are about to close, but later Maria is going to upload a test about oral stories, keeping our stories and mythology very interesting. And I know this is really an interesting topic, but we are almost done with the conference. We later can probably prepare something for a future reference and presentation. But now we are going to close our 2020 virtual conference. As Professor explained at the beginning, you can make your dreams come true. Just watch for them. When I was 12 years old, living in Colombia, Bogota, my little country, my little state, have a dream that I will be around the world, traveling and meeting people from all over the world. Now, I'm with you, Agatha Ronnie from Patras, Zoe from Athens, Noti from Patras, Maria from Thessalonica, Cindy from Orlando, Professor Steve from Osaka, Julia from New York, Miss Anita from India. My dream came true. We can do it. We can dream, and we can make our dreams come true. One thing is clear. A tiny virus could the face of the world upside down. Maybe this is the time to change the direction of our lives to have a better world. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming to LuzDelMes Anthology 2020. Professor McCarty, it was a delight to have you. We learned so much about your experience, your lecture, with Julia, Lisa. Thank you for joining Professor Steve here and my dear friends from Greece. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Evkaristo.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much.
It will be recorded. It will be in YouTube. Or read it again, listen again, and learn. Until next time. Sayonara. Namaste. Gracias.
Gracias. Gracias. Thank you. Bye.